felt that I've been in love with God a long time. I'll say the first time I felt his love was the age of 7, and I knew that I was very set apart because I went to church. My mom and I, we went to church when my grandmother was alive. To We went to visit, and I remember eyeballing this lady, and mind you, I'm 7, and so the lady was kind of eyeballing me too. So I remember I was watching her interact, and I remember the pastor came and, shook my hand and, how are you, pretty little girl, and stuff like that, and blah, blah. And I remember saying, that lady was faking. I just blurted out, she was faking when she was shouting. And that for me was the day I knew I was set apart. There has been so many encounters, so many beautiful things that I've experienced with God, that I understand when the old people say, if I had 1,000 tons, they couldn't thank them enough. If I had a billion, I couldn't tell of, it wouldn't be enough to tell of how much he loves me and how much I love him. So many encounters. But what I want to speak on when it comes to his love for me, and because we can all go and think about things in our past where, God has loved us, and different things like that. For me, I want to make it as relevant as possible. So, last year, May 24th, a day I'll never forget. And excuse me, because I kind of get a nervous energy even thinking about it. May 24th was the day my oldest son went into a diabetic coma. And that was the longest 4 days of just trying to, I couldn't even process. Honestly, I still have a hard time processing even now, because as soon as that happened, that's me moving around on my bed. As soon as that happened, I was no longer Diana. I had to suit up and become Wonder Woman right then. And for those 4 days, I probably in the hospital, in ICU with my son, I probably slept a total of maybe 12 hours in 4 days. Maybe 12 hours in a total of 4 days. And then it was a fork in the road. I didn't think I would have to be split between. And the split was understanding if God is going to take your son, and still on this end, understanding how much God loves me. Like, I was just like, it was so hard. And guys, I am just now, mind you, that happened in May of 2021. A lot happened between that day and June, I think it was June 30th. a lot happened in between. But my son being in the hospital, I never forget the conversation I sat there and had, because I was just numb. I couldn't cry because a different type of strength as a mother came on me, and I'm like, okay, I feel like crying, but it won't come out because I have to stay focused on my son in ICU. They're constantly coming in, taking blood it was either every 30 minutes or every hour. Taking blood, watching him cringe, watching just, I can't even put into words. And I remember sitting there on that night on the side of him, because I put a chair up, and I remember having to have this conversation with God, and having to have the conversation of, God, I love you more than anything and anybody. And I know you love my son more than you love, I know that you love my son more because he's yours. I said, I have to be honest. My human side will be mad and will be angry, and I probably won't talk to you for a while, and I'll be crying on and off, and I'll probably cuss you out a little bit, and like, I'm describing all these emotions to God that I'm going to have if he decides to take my son. And in that moment of me just being bluntly honest with God, because that's what a relationship is being completely open, honest, bluntly honest, having the hard conversations, all those things, and still wrapping it back up in love, right? So I'm telling God this. In the moment, for me, I felt that my love for God was the type of love that Abraham had for God when he was getting ready to sacrifice Isaac. After I finished getting my emotions out, telling the God, look, this is my human side, and this is what it's going to be, and this is how I'm going to act, and this is how I'm going to feel, I then said, but I understand that my son was just here for me to nurture and mature in the love of God and help him understand the will of God and find you for himself. And if his assignment is over, okay, still having to say, but I understand that if his assignment is over, thank you for allowing me to be his mom for the length of time that I had him. Thank you for trusting me with your kid. Thank you for trusting me to raise him the best way possible in your word. And I'll be upset and I'll be hurt, but I love you enough to understand. That's a conversation with God I will never forget. It's etched into my soul. At that moment, this male nurse came in, and And he looked at me because I was very, very silent. And he grabbed my hand and he got on his knees and he said, it's okay. he said, I had a conversation with your son and I asked him what his necklace was. And he said his neck. My son had a necklace that he had ordered from Instagram. I'm sorry, not Instagram. From Amazon that had one of his favorite Bible scriptures on there. And this man, he's talking to me, and I'm listening, and I'm like, he doesn't know enough about my son to be saying some of the personal things that he was saying. So I'm listening, and in my head I'm like, this is an angel. This is not a human. And so he started talking. Then he says, "You've raised him right. I know. You have done a great job installing the word of God in him. He has a good," like, he just started pouring into me about things I know he didn't know, about conversations I've had with my kids spiritually. And so after he grabbed my hand, I was able to like cry a little, but I was still in superwoman mode, and that they couldn't flow. And so I remember after that, it was like they were after like the second day, they moved my son to they moved him to a regular bed out of ICU. I asked for that nurse. They said, "There's no one here that by that name that works here," because his name tag, it was something of Gabe, something like that. And I was like, I knew God sent that angel for me because I needed it at that time. But as a parent, as a mom, and as a woman that loves God first, because some people get it mixed up and they'll love everything and everybody else first and put their kids first. Nope. I have always taught my kids, do not put me before God. Like, that's not what we're gonna do. When they were small, I used to tell them, if you haven't talked to God first before you come and tell me good morning, you go back and talk to him first. So for me to have that conversation with God, and he allowed me to be human and be angry and upset, and I was just being real, like letting him know, like, this is what it's gonna be if you take my son. This how I'm gonna act. This how I'm gonna feel. And then for the love of God to be so embedded in me that I understood, as they say, I understood the assignment, and I was like, if that's all my child was here for, then I understand. And then I start thanking him for trusting me with being a parent, trusting me with these two amazing boys that I have. So, mind you, that was May. So then after that, y'all, 2021 was the hardest mental and spiritual battles I've had ever in my life. Ever. And so after all that, yada, 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 I got home, and although there was a little like discrepancy in the hospital between, there's a little discrepancy in the hospital. I I'm really good at listening and picking it up. If I do it in my mind, I know I can do it. So, um, I was listening to the nurse and the counselor was giving, he and was giving my kid's dad and I like these math problems, how to do the math to do the insulin, and um, because I am a person, I was listening to her, but I was doing it in my head. Sometimes it doesn't come out on paper like as quick, and so that was a moment that like it really crushed me because some people were making me feel like dumb in that instance. And so once I got home, kicked it into gear. Already knew what to do. So that went on, and so because I would have to get up at 3 in the morning and go and check his blood sugar and blood pressure for like 3 months straight, I didn't sleep. So now I was dealing with, I wasn't really eating. Now I have chronic insomnia, and all of these things. Just wasn't sleeping. Having to think about when he goes to school and getting all of this protection for him at school. So if he turns in work late or he's not feeling good this day, like it was a lot to adjust to. But I'm glad that God definitely created me to be the type of woman that I kick into gear, and what got to get done, got to get done. So all that is handled, right? Mind you, I didn't process my son's. I didn't even process that my son was in a diabetic coma for a whole freaking day, and then all of that piling on, and then having to come home, and now I'm be a nurse at home. I put myself on the back burner because I'm trying to make sure my son is okay. Meanwhile, I'm trying to make sure that my youngest son still feels included and loved and all of those things, because I didn't want to be so wrapped up in my oldest son getting well that I neglect my youngest. Like, I don't play those games. So I'm doing all of that, but I'm taking care of them and not taking care of me. Meanwhile, the entire time I'm feeling like shit. I'm feeling like that's what I'm feeling like. I'm still encouraging people. I'm still checking on people. I'm still sending scriptures. I'm still asking people if they need prayer. Like, still doing it. And I would have moments where I would just like, it would be random, that I would just go in the restroom, cry, clear it up, come back out, be mom, cook, clean, go in the restroom, cry, or I would go to the trash can. I would, go and take trash out, and during that walk to that dumpster, I'm crying. But by the time I come back, I've dried my tears and I'm back in gear. Because I couldn't break down like I needed to. So what ended up happening is that it caught up with me. The month of, it wasn't June, it was July. The month of July, the week of the 30th, it hits me, and I didn't even realize it, because something that I definitely know about myself, I am very good at carrying weight. I'm very good at carrying, heavy things that may happen, whether it's like, death or whatever the case. I'm good at carrying that. And so, Holy Spirit just told me I'm good at carrying my cross. He gonna minister to me in the middle of the dock. So, and I take that as a compliment. In the middle of this, y'all, the week of the 30th, the week of July the 30th, it was a Wednesday. I'm going to the trash can. I'm taking stuff to the dumpster. And I just feel this weight. It was a weight on me like the whole day. I feel this weight, and it's a weight of it's a weight of the devil and his imps telling me, "Oh, you tired. You ain't even cried yet. Your kid's good. You can take your kids to your parents' house, and you ain't been getting any sleep. So you got those allergy meds, and you got some melatonin, and you got some Advil. Like, you can pop all of them and get some real good sleep." So now I felt like I was in the middle of a circle and surrounded by demons trying to get me to get some eternal rest. So I'm walking to the trash can, all that is going through my head, and I'm hearing that, and I'm like fighting it in my head. I'm walking back from the dumpster, getting ready to go back in the house, and I stand outside my door, and I'm just crying, and I quickly come in the house and go to the restroom, and I'm like, I'm pleading now, like, I'm on heaven's door, like, I need some help. Like, that's what it was for me. So I go in the restroom. I'm like, God, you know what's going on in the spirit realm. I'm tired. I'm drained. I am really spiritually weak right now because I'm still pouring into other people. I'm not getting poured into, not really being asked if I'm okay. Like, I need to scream and I can't, but you know what's going on in the spirit realm. I need reinforcements. And so said that, came out the restroom, and it was about my oldest son is a night owl. He's like me. We can be up to like 3 and 4 in the morning. My young son goes to sleep early. This day, they both went to sleep at the same time, 10 o'clock. Both went to sleep at 10. I already knew. I went upstairs. I still hug my kids. I get them a kiss on the jaw. We may have some, in-depth conversation. Go to sleep. Kiss them. Make sure covering stuff was on them. Told Josh I'll be back up to check on you at 3 because I had the alarm set. Walk down. As I'm walking down my stairs, tears are flooding down my face because now it felt like I was being jumped by all of hell in the spirit realm. And so I'm walking. I come to my room, and a place I never thought I would put myself in. I don't want to say put myself in. I never thought I would mentally be in this place where I'm actually thinking like, you know what? My kids are older. They are, they got their dad. My parents are alive and doing good, so they could help. Yeah, you know what? It may be good for me to do this just to get some sleep. And at that moment, I understood what Fantasia talked about in her documentary when she said she wasn't trying to kill herself. She just wanted to get some sleep. And that's where I was. I didn't want to harm myself, and I didn't want to kill myself. I just wanted some sleep because I hadn't had sleep. I hadn't been really eating anything. So I remember I'm having this conversation with God. I get in my bed. I'm crying. I get back up. I turn the light on, and I grab my phone, and I remember I sent, this is where you got to make sure your inner circle knows God. You know, like all this about this loyalty and stuff like that. No, make sure your inner circle consists of people that know God, that know God's voice, that God calls them friend. And when they pray, it gets all of heaven's attention and that has spiritual discernment. I'm serious about that. So I hit up my strongest prayer warriors in my inner circle. I sent a text to Erica, Marquita, Dee Dee, who else? Erica, Marquita, Dee Dee, and I know it was 2 other people because it was 5. It was 5 people. And my text went something like, look, and DeAndre, and I forgot who the other person was. And I still have those text messages. I remember it was very, I was like, y'all, the enemy is rewarding my thoughts with suicide. I love my, it was something on the verge of like, this is what's going on. This is what the enemy is attacking me with. I don't have the strength to pray for myself because I'm really battling taking these pills and going to sleep, but I know the results of not waking back up. I need help because sleep sounds real good, but the consequences of that type of sleep is eternal. I need y'all to fight for me like now. And I remember that now was in caps. Like, pray now. And I put the phone down. I turned off my light. I got in the bed. And I turned on 10 Commandments with Charleston Heston on my TV. I turned it up. I laid down. And I could feel like all the demons just been brought in my ear, trying to pressure me to take myself out this world. And I got to the point where I could actually feel the prayers of the people I asked to pray for me for. And I started getting angry. And I am a very dangerous person when you get me to angry prayer, because I'm finna pray all of heaven down. When I get to it, when I'm spiritually angry, oh, it's a whole problem. So I got to that point and I started getting like, I could feel my spirit revving up because I could feel them praying for me. I started praying angrily in the spirit, reminding the devil that, what he's not, that he's already defeated. Speaking the promises of God over me and my kids, over my life. Start reminding God of what he told me. They all could get it that day. And so that night I prayed and angry prayed, and I know I was loud. But when I woke up that morning, which was the 30th, I felt like a brand new woman. And that for me in 2021 was one of my hard but favorite moments, because the fact that God fought for me, he sent, my warrior angels to fight on my behalf. He had people closely connected to me that he calls friend to fight for me in the spirit realm. And because of the gifts I have, I'm able to see in the spirit realm also. So sometimes it ain't stuff you want to see all the time. But the fact that I could literally see the fights, that for me is, I can't, because it's hard to put into words. But that, I'll say that moment for me, waking up the next morning, knowing the battle was won, knowing the devil was defeated, and I'm like, I'm still here. Like, like, what's next? So knowing that, knowing like the devil was pissed off to the max, like I know he was like, damn, we can't get rid of that ass. Like, I know that for me was the love of God overflowing in my life. That right there. Like I said, I have stories after stories after stories, but last year being my hardest spiritual and mental battles, that right there was God bombarding me with his love, his grace, his mercy, and just keeping his promises that he will never leave me nor forsake me. And not only just that for me, but also my children. So after all of that, God starts sending me love letters. He knows things that I like. I'm a sentimentalist. I like handwritten letters. I like poetry. I like arts. I love music, turtles and cats, and I like animals. I like nature. And maybe that has something to do with me being an earth sign, because I'm a Virgo, but like, you know, all of those things, like, to me, the simple things are so beautiful. And I noticed that God started sending me what I call love letters. So I remember one day there was a baby frog at my door, and I was just like in awe because I love frogs. Then next thing, he sent the mama. I'm like, okay, you sent me a duo. So they would be at my door, and they would show up at my door on my front porch, always trying to get in the house. But it would be times where I felt lonely, and the frogs would be at my door. Then we have rabbits. So, you know, start seeing rabbits every morning. After that, I am obsessed with turtles. I would start seeing turtles everywhere. I've saved some turtles. I've helped some turtles get across the street because where I live, the traffic is crazy. I have put turtles in the trunk of, of my truck so that they could get safely to the little pond. Like, I love turtles. And I had a baby turtle show up at my doorstep. So I started calling them love letters. I'm like, every day I started looking for God to send me a love letter. And recently, what he had been doing all of 2021 is sending me love letters through his artistic work in the sky, like beautiful sunsets and clouds and things like that. And what he does that for me as a reminder to, as people, we're always trying to get to the next goal and success here and straightforward here and let's get to the money and all of that stuff. And you're so busy driving full speed ahead that you forget to look up. So my entire 2021, after that, you know, that spirit of heaviness broke off of me July the 30th, I started looking up. That's a whole sermon right there. But I started looking up, and the last 3 months